Hello and welcome to my channel Bastelkist. Nice that you stopped by. Well, that's what today is about. Your tumble dryer won't dry anymore. That's why you're probably watching this video, because you have problems there too. The background is usually that, even if you have a self-cleaner, i.e. clean yourself. The device sits anyway. This heat exchanger in a heat pump dryer. It clogs up, and when this heat exchanger clogs up, you notice that the laundry is no longer really dry. And yes, we definitely want to show you how to fix the problem here in the video. So here you can see this heat exchanger that's totally clogged even though it's a self-cleaner. So he would have to clean himself again, but he doesn't. First of all, of course, you have to check whether your lint filter is clean, whether everything fits. But I'm assuming you're all that smart. And that's clean. Now down in this shaft, there is the one after this heat exchanger that needs to be cleaned. And I think yours looks like the one in this picture. Normally, the fluff is detached from this heat exchanger by the stream of humidity that flows past it. There is a basin under this heat exchanger, and then at some point the fluff comes up high in this water container, which you then pour out. But as just shown, at some point it gets so clogged that more and more fluff gets stuck and is no longer washed off or is washed out. And then these problems arise. What is the advantage of cleaning this heat exchanger again? Yes, the first advantage is that you save a lot of electricity because the whole drying process works much more effectively and you save time. Everything goes much faster or dries faster. We start now and remove the lint filter. As shown in the video here. Just take out all the pieces so we can look down this shaft and see below. Depending on what you have for the dryer, you can see this heat exchanger on the left and right. And that's where we have to stop. The problem with this heat exchanger is that you can no longer get to it from either side. They are built in like this. And yes, you kind of have to figure out how to get there. And the only way to do it without major action on the device is actually through the shaft. And that's the easiest way. If we then find our dirty heat exchanger, then there is the following option. You can go and clean it with a brush and all sorts of things. I made a video that helps for a while. But the problem is, the heat exchanger has a certain length, and in this area of this length fluff can of course get stuck everywhere, and of course you don't get it right at the beginning, or you generally can't get it off with a brush. That's why I've used compressed air here, and in this video here, I have a compressed air gun here, and it's the only investment you need. You have to buy a small compressor. It costs around €100. I will also link them in the video description. If you're interested, look it up. And yes, with this compressor, which you can also use for other things, you can wonderfully blow this heat exchanger free. I have the method here that, depending on how you get to it, you simply go directly in front of the heat exchanger with the compressed air gun and let it go. And that's how we solved a lot. And yet you can now do it with wet stuff, like I do, and you can wash it all out with glue. You just exchange through the heat exchanger, for example dissolve. I'll continue right now. Be careful not to damage the fins from the inside. Anyone who, for reasons of space, cannot use the compressed air gun in front of the heat exchanger will have to come up with something. Either he builds his compressed air gun with such a thin tube that he can get in front of the heat exchanger, or he simply uses a plastic hose like I'm doing here now. so I simply clamped more to the gun with a pipe, a plastic hose. I warmed up the nozzle at the front a bit with a lighter and then pushed it apart or compressed a bit so that it was a bit wide. With this you can then wonderfully clean the slots of the heat exchanger. In between, of course, also suck up loose bubbles from time to time and can work wonderfully with the hose. Then you already have them and don't distribute them further in the heat exchanger. And this is what the end result looks like now. The heat exchanger has now been wonderfully cleaned of fluff and has been cleaned throughout, which means that it is now really clean along its entire length and the dryer should now be working perfectly again. You will get a day or two depending on how much you dry. After that, always have some fluff in the container in the water container, because there is a water basin under this heat exchanger and the fluff is supposed to be transported up with it. Also, water tank. This is the self-cleaning function, so to speak, which then works wonderfully again. That's what it looks like. The thing is then quite filthy, you have to clean it again afterwards, after a few days, when the whole thing has returned to normal. But all in all, the drying process is well suited again. If this is done exactly as shown here step by step in the video, then your dryer will work wonderfully again. You will save electricity, you will save time. Without your device, it will also thank you because it actually works properly again and has also been cleaned. Yes, and that brings me to the end of my post. Yes, I hope you enjoyed the video. It brings you more feedback. I'm really happy about that.